December 7th, 1941. Imagine you were there that fateful morning. It started off as a peaceful Sunday morning over 80 years ago in Pearl Harbor at Hickam Field on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Our entire naval base has awakened with most of the fleet peacefully anchored within the confines of the harbor. Experience the roar of the engines and the sounds of the bombs as the Imperial Japanese Navy approaches. And with the break in formation, launches the first fighters and bombers from Japan's first air fleet, led by Captain Fushida. The unprovoked surprise attack was so complete that the coded success signal, TORA TORA TORA, was sent back to the carrier task force before the first bomb fell. A single remote radar station had spotted the incoming raiders but mistook them for a flight of B-17s due in from the mainland. The B-17s arrive, and like America herself, find themselves in a war that had not yet been declared. We just saw the B-25 fly through. It is doing the job of what a B-17 would have done. The attack was from the Japanese aircraft carriers Akagi, Akaga, Hiru, Soru, and the two new carriers, the Shokuku and the Suikuku. The plan was simple: destroy the Pacific Fleet. The raid lasted for a little over 2 horrific and gruesome hours. Yes, you have a front row seat in the Pacific Theater as the story of the attack on Pearl Harbor unfolds in front of you. You are there. When the first bombs began to fall, pilots all over the island jump into action. At Wheeler Field, Lieutenant Philip Rasmussen woke to the sound of bombs, jumping out of bed, strapping on a .45 caliber pistol over his purple pajamas, and ran to a working Curtiss P-36 Hawk. All aircraft on the flight lines were ordered to be wingtip to wingtip on alert for days with guns loaded, except for this Sunday morning. The Japanese Zeros and Bells bombed the exposed airplanes. Most of them were on fire or destroyed, except for a couple of P-36 Hawks. Rasmussen was joined by 4 more P-36 pilots: Lou Sanders, Harry Brown, Gordon Sterling, and Malcolm Mike Moore. They took off to engage the attacking Japanese and managed to shoot down a few of their Zeros, Vals, and Kates. The number of enemy aircraft were incredibly overwhelming. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the island, Kenneth Taylor and George Welch were just returning from an all-night dinner, dance, and poker party. These brave pilots, still in their formal dress clothes, raced to a couple of P-40 Warhawks, got them fueled and armed, and took off. They quickly found themselves in the middle of a real battle. Right there is our Kate torpedo bomber. These two pilots caught up with the Japanese close to Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field and engaged the Zeros, Vals, and Kates with rounds from their .30 caliber machine guns. However, they quickly ran out of ammunition. Luckily, they were able to land at Wheeler Field, which is near the center of the island. They refueled and reloaded with .30 and .50 caliber ammo and took off once again to fight the Japanese. The two pilots were credited with downing a total of 6 Japanese warplanes before their own planes were disabled. Both pilots received a Distinguished Service Cross for their actions that infamous day. A total of 502 U.S. planes were on the ground at the beginning of the attack. Sadly, 188 totally destroyed, 159 damaged, and just 155 of our aircraft lay on the ground in various stages of disrepair. The first wave of 189 Japanese Zeros, Vals, and Kates hammered Hawaii for almost an hour. Then came the second wave of an additional 171 aircraft to continue the strafing, bombing, and dropping of torpedoes for yet another 70 minutes. That's a total of 360 enemy warplanes. As the attack proceeded at Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field, the devastation was horrifying. On the eastern edge of Ford Island, in the center of the harbor, 9 battleships lay at berth. The California, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tennessee, Maryland, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Utah, and the Arizona. Luckily at the time, our 3 Pacific aircraft carriers were out at sea. First, the Japanese hit with K-torpedo bombers. The initial wave of Ks hit 5 of our battleships, the Oklahoma, California, Nevada, West Virginia, and the Utah. These Ks were specially equipped with shallow running torpedoes, specifically designed for the attack on Pearl Harbor. You see, the shallow waters at Pearl Harbor would not allow the use of normal deep running torpedoes, which leaves no question that this was a well thought out plan and not a surprise attack. Then came the Val dive bombers, armed with 1,700 pounds of armor-busting projectiles, originally made for 16-inch battleship guns, but were converted to aerial bombs. These planes dived down onto the Nevada and the Arizona. Anti-aircraft fire veered the Vals away from the Nevada on the first wave, but unfortunately, the Arizona was not that lucky. A bomb from a K-torpedo bomber stabbed the Arizona through her forward magazines and exploded, torching off more than 1 million pounds of gunpowder. Sailors on the Nevada watched in horror as the Arizona jumped 20 feet in the air and broke in two, forever entrapping 1,178 American servicemen in an underwater tomb. The ship sank in less than 3 minutes, and still today she remains at the bottom of the harbor in a watery grave, crying black tears as a reminder to all of those who lost their lives that infamous day. At Marine Corps Air Station Ewok, Private First Class Melvin Thompson was on guard duty when 9 Zeros attacked the base. He stepped out of his guard shack, he drew his .45 caliber pistol, and he began firing on the enemy planes. A Japanese pilot, Yoshio Shiga, saw Thompson firing back at them. Years later, Shiga remembered Thompson's tenacity and fighting spirit, describing the Marine as the bravest American I've ever seen. Right here front and center is our Zero. Following is our P-36 Warhawk, our American airplane. All over the islands, our soldiers were bringing their weapons to bear and fight anything they could get working. Their .45 caliber pistol or Springfield rifles, and in some cases, they were able to get 30 and 50 caliber belt-fed machine guns into action, bringing down numerous marauding Japanese Zeros, Vals, and Ks. Tora, Tora, Tora! Meanwhile, at Bellows Airfield on the northeastern coast of the island, more U.S. Army pilots were racing to their P-40s. Unfortunately, Japanese Zeros appeared at the same time and started strafing runs. One P-40 pilot was killed as he stepped into his cockpit. 2 other P-40s were shot down just as they got off the ground. Imagine the chaos of that day. The flight of 12 B-17s coming from the mainland finally arrived and were immediately attacked by the Zeros. Unfortunately, in all the confusion, the B-17 was shot by friend and foe. The fight crews landed wherever they could. One of them on a conical field not far from Hickam Field. B-17 pilot Major Landon, trying to land, said what a hell of a way to enter a war. Out of gas, unarmed, and no place to land. Amazingly though, 8 of those B-17s actually made it to Hickam Field. At the conclusion of the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, more than half of America's entire naval fleet had been destroyed or damaged. Nearly 2,400 Americans were killed, 1,200 wounded, and at the time, 960 people were missing. 188 aircraft were destroyed, 150 just 155 of our aircraft were left on the ground. 2 battleships were destroyed, 3 light cruisers, 3 destroyers, and a total of 6 battleships were damaged. Our greatest naval base lay in ruins, along with our complacency. The following day, December 8, 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt announced our entry into World War II with these words to Congress, the citizens of the United States, and the world.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. It will be reported that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
Admiral Yamamoto, the mastermind of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, said, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve." Well, he was right. In the 44 months of fighting that followed, the United States sank every one of the Japanese aircraft carriers, battleships, and cruisers that were a part of the Pearl Harbor Task Force. Nagasaki, the city where the special armor-busting bombs were made, was destroyed by a U.S. atom bomb on August 9, 1945. And a little less than a month later, when the Japanese surrender document was signed on September 2nd, among the U.S. warships present in Tokyo Bay was our battleship, the West Virginia. Would you please bow your head and join me in a moment of silence in memory of all of those who lost their lives?